Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Green Lantern, Green Arrow, issue number 78, dated July 1970. And of course, this issue is a part of the great Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run on the title. This issue is basically Green Lantern, Green Arrow versus Charles Manson. And we see on the cover, we see Green Lantern just basically punching the crap out of Charles Manson here. We don't see his face directly, and DC was very conscious about not making the villain in this issue, which obviously would be Charles Manson, look too much like the actual character. They were worried about one being sued. Also, they were worried about not looking like they were sort of profiting or taking advantage of this terrible tragedy that had happened with the Tate LaBianca murders. Anyway, the cover's kind of a minimum one. We see behind Green Lantern, we see the Black Canary. She needs to be restrained by the Green Arrow here. And she's the only one speaking on the cover. She's saying that, he's the only family that she's got. And she's demanding that they let her go or she'll kill them both. And again, this is a take on Manson and the hold that he seemed to have on these mostly young women. Manson did have a few male followers, but the vast majority of the people in his cult were women. And this is one of the things that was of interest to Denny O'Neil, and to many people who were in the media, was, how could these, very young women basically be brainwashed into doing these very horrific acts. So I'm going to go into the story. And the title of it is A Kind of Loving, A Way of Death. And I'll go over the creative team a little. Of course, Denny O'Neil was the writer. The art was by both Neil Adams and Frank Giacola. The impression that I get when I read issues 77, 78, and 79 was that the art was a little rushed. And it really wasn't until issue 80 where the art really started stepping up. And while for the most part the art in this story is pretty good, there's way too much Frank in this. So I got the feeling that Neil was probably a little rushed on the art. From what I understand of the some of the history about the creation of this run, Denny O'Neil had written the first script, which would become issue number 76. He actually wrote it a year before that issue hit the stands. What had happened was the Green Lantern title had started really dipping in sales, and it was really sort of more of, I think, a science fiction title, because the writer was John Broome, and the artist was Gil Kane, and I think they would mostly focus on science fiction stories. And I think they were falling out of favor with readers. And this bothered Joel Schwartz, because he was the guy who rebooted the Green Lantern. He gave him that much sleeker, more modern look, and he kind of changed him from whoever he was in the Golden Age to Hal Jordan. So the title really meant a lot to Jules, and he was thinking of ways to save it, because he knew, based on sales and how corporations work, they were going to cancel the title. So he'd gone to Denny O'Neil and wanting to ask him if there were any ideas that O'Neil may have had. And the reason why Schwartz had gone to O'Neil was that O'Neil had written a Justice League of America story dealing with pollution, and it was a story that that Jules really liked, and because of that, he felt that Denny O'Neil would have some ideas on how to save the comic. And one of the things that they agreed on was that they were going to touch on relevant issues of the day. So so if you ever look at those comics, and I highly recommend you do, there's always some type of social issue or social injustice that they're talking about. In this issue, it's two things. They kind of do touch a little bit on Indian rights, which is something they looked at in the following issue. And it's also a look at, again, Charles Manson and his cult. And, anyway, going back to the story. So anyway, why the art was rushed. I'm sorry, I lost track of what's going on. So the script that became issue number 76 of Green Lantern Green Arrow, that had been written a year earlier. Denny O'Neil didn't know who was going to draw it, and it turned out that Joe Schwartz had assigned Neil Adams to the title because he really wanted to save the Green Lantern He wanted to save the Green Lantern title, and so Neil Adams did 76. If you look at the artwork, he's definitely borrowing from Gil Kane. So he kind of cheated a little by kind of copying Gil Kane's style a bit. It was still great artwork. But then they had to come up with issue 77. And I think that was scheduled for 2 months later. So because of the timeline, I think Adams was probably a bit rushed. So we see the cover here. It has the black canary on it. And it looks like she's having some type of run-in with a local motorcycle gang. And this is taking place in Washington State. And basically the Black Canary is here because she caught wind of what the Green Lantern and Green Arrow were doing. And she was like, hey, I want to join on this trip too. So she got on her her motorcycle, and she's basically kind of just chasing for her boyfriend. And obviously at this point both parties are in Washington State. And right now Black Canary is kind of concerned here because the motorcycle gang here is making it clear that they want this motorcycle. Black Canary again warns these guys, she doesn't want any trouble. You either, walk away or, you end up on your back. The motorcycle guys are making it clear that they're going to put up a fight. That they're not afraid of a woman in a blonde wig and a cabaret outfit. However, the biker immediately regrets that move. She uses her mastery of karate and just kind of slams this guy right on his face. However, now the other guys are concerned. They realize that, one, they're kind of facing a formidable opponent here. And also, this also has increased the stakes for them. Because this is not just simply stealing a motorcycle, it's their reputation. And they're making it clear that one of the reasons why they feel privileged in this area is because they've been terrorizing everyone around it. And if it gets around that these guys can be beaten up by women, it's not going to be as much fun for them as it was. So the gang, they all converge on Black Canary. And at this point, it's really just a clinic for Black Canary. She's not working up a sweat. She's handling these guys really easily. So, and while this fight's going on, there's kind of a narrative here about who the Black Canary is. I guess maybe if there were some kids who weren't reading Justice League of America, they might not be as familiar with the Black Canary. However, the motorcycle gang they realize they're getting their asses kicked here, to the point where Black Canary is just starting to pimp slap these guys. However, one of the members is able to kind of crawl away and get on his motorcycle with the idea of just simply running down the Black Canary, which he does. So it's kind of a brutal thing to do to someone, but they have to worry about their social status here. Very important. So we cut to a scene of the titular heroes of this title, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. They're joined by the Old Timer, and they're in this, this Indian cafe, because it's definitely not large enough to be a restaurant. And the proprietor, who's Native American, is letting the guys know that the menu is a little limited to basically beans, and more beans. So basically they have the Hulk special, but that's it. But it turns out the guys are fine with having beans. They're eating it. They're really enjoying the meal, all three of them. And they're talking to the proprietor, kind of like trying, just having a nice trying to have a conversation with him. The guy's a little defensive here. Obviously, being Native American, he's going to be holding some maybe collective resentment against these three white guys. He's trying not to hold it against them individually, but he's just sort of being a little sarcastic with the fact that he's Native American. And then it turns out the motorcycle gang that Black Canary had encountered earlier, and who they defeated her. They show up in the cafe, and they start pushing around the proprietor, making it clear that that when they're there, this is their place, and you better treat us with the respect that we fool ourselves into thinking you should. The proprietor, he pushes back against these guys, and he's immediately slugged. Green Lantern and Green Arrow, who are in their civilian clothes. So this is how in Ollie, and this is how they look to the motorcycle gang. The motorcycle gang kind of like views these guys as wimps. And one of the guys is making it clear that if you want to start trouble, we'll end it. And Hal and Ollie, they kind of do the kind of innocent bystander thing, saying that they're much too timid to actually talk back to these guys. However, that obviously is going to be a ruse. Before I go to the story, we'll take a look at this one ad. It's from Aurora, and it's model tanks. And this was kind of a controversial sell here, because the Vietnam War was not popular with comic book readers at this point, because a lot of them were either worried about being drafted, or they had a sibling who was drafted. And I guess there was still a market for kids who were interested in this stuff, who are not necessarily as aware of events, but yeah, interesting. So anyway, we see obviously Hal and Ollie, they very quickly get into Green Lantern, Green Arrow mode. Green Lantern just has to kind of power up his battery. Now we go back to the cafe. At this point, the bikers think they've won, and they're toasting to themselves, enjoying their victory, talking about how much they enjoy inflicting pain, and they may inflict some more on the proprietor. However, the mug of beer is taken out of his hand, and it's immediately smashed over his head. And now suddenly, these guys are looking down Green Lantern, Green Arrow. However, the bikers are not used to costume heroes in this part of the world, so they really don't understand the trouble that they're in at this point. So the bikers, they try to take the offensive here. However, Green Lantern just is kind of having some fun. He the knife that's shoved near him is immediately shot out, and Green Lantern then kind of just knocks this guy through a window with a single punch. Which one, the proprietor, he might not have insurance. So I hope Hal's ready to lay out some cash for that little bit of destruction. Also, doing something like this looks cool in movies, but you can actually kill somebody if you push someone out a window like this. Some of the other bikers, they go after Green Arrow. Green Arrow, he's not even going to use his bow to fire any of his arrows. He thinks so little of these guys. So he's basically using his bow as a club. And he's just whacking these guys around using his fist. So they're not much of a challenge for him either. And then we take a look at this one ad. Just going to quickly look at it because it does have an in-house ad for Batman. Giant size Batman. I always hated these reprints. Because I felt they never picked good reprints. So we go back to the story. Most of the other bikers already got their ass kicked. However, there's one guy who decided that he's not going to take one for the team. And he runs off. And Green Lantern and Green Arrow, they're kind of just looking at each other somewhat awkwardly. And I think they're both saying, you can take care of this? I mean, okay, I guess you can take care of this. So Green Arrow, he kind of takes the initiative, and he's going to stop this guy. He's going to test out one of his arrows. So he's not really using this arrow against this guy. He's just sort of like, this guy's just live action practice for him. And he uses this arrow that apparently combines deep sea fishing and nuclear fusion. And I have no idea what the connection is. I guess the thing is that once the net is employed, then it implodes around the target. So anyway, the target's down. However, when Green Lantern and Green Arrow get closer to this last biker who tried to get away, they notice that the bike that he was riding was Black Canary's. And the reason why they are able to recognize that is that Superman had actually built the Black Canary's motorcycle. So it was definitely a custom-made job. And it was a very unique custom-made job. So Green Arrow immediately recognizes this. And he's going to question how did this hoodlum get a hold of this bike? Because Black Canary is not going to put this thing on Craigslist. And then, Green Arrow, he's using some enhanced interrogation techniques. Green Lantern is telling him to kind of cool it, that, knocking this guy's teeth is going to make it harder for him to talk. We don't want that. However, the biker has already gotten the hint. And he knows he needs to spill the beans. So he tells them, what had happened, how they encountered Black Canary, and that was and they had taken the bike from her a couple of weeks ago. And Green Arrow's immediately asking what happened to her. What did you do? And the biker says, listen, we just left her there. We don't know what happened to her. And then Green Arrow is so angry at this, callousness. He just slugs this guy. Just cold cock slugs this guy. And Green Arrow wants to kill him right here and there. So then the police come and they kind of pick up the biker gang. But the thing is, there's still the question of what happened to the Black Canary. Because at the very least, they know that her motorcycle's there, and the biker confessed to what had happened. So they're talking to the proprietor. And the proprietor seems kind of angry and agitated talking to them. And they ask him what's up. And the proprietor has a list of grievances, probably all of them justified. But nevertheless, this conversation is not going to help the two guys find the Black Canary. It's just sort of kind of like a prelude to the next issue, I guess. Yeah, I don't really understand why they put this in. I think maybe they just wanted to separate Green Lantern, Green Arrow from the old timer, because Green Lantern, Green Arrow, they're going to go out and look for the Black Canary, and the old timer is going to listen to the grievances that the proprietor, the Native American proprietor, has. Then, oh yeah, I should mention Hal showing some, I guess, kind of growth here by saying that, I guess you have to learn the things I'm ashamed about my race. Hal kind of shouldn't feel this kind of collective guilt. Hal's flying. He's creating a flying Pegasus for Green Arrow, and they see Black Canary along the road here. And Green Arrow obviously runs off to greet her. And Green Arrow, he's initially confused by Black Canary's reaction. Black Canary isn't really reacting the way he would expect her to react. She's acting like she's in sort of a trance, and she's making it clear that she's in a place where she wants to be. Green Arrow doesn't understand this, and a voice from behind him tells him that, she has made her decision and you must leave. And that now he is her family. And he introduces himself as Joshua. And again, this is the avatar for Charles Manson. And it kind of sort of looks a little like Charles, but not a whole lot. So DC did cover their bases there. Green Arrow is not impressed with Joshua. Joshua, he's sort of giving off kind of these Messiah vibes here, and Green Arrow's kind of seeing through it. So he's demanding answers from Joshua. He doesn't want to hear like how great Joshua thinks Joshua is. Joshua's explaining that that they're a group, they're a family, and they're together to bring enlightenment to the world. And Green Arrow, he's immediately very skeptical of what Joshua calls the truth. Joshua obviously realizes that he's not going to have any type of control over these two guys. So he says, I'm asking you to leave. Just leave. This is a tough decision for Green Lantern, Green Arrow. As we see here, I should go to this part first. As we see Green Arrow, he immediately confronts Black Canary, saying, listen, I don't know what type of spell or that this Bengali has spun over you, but this guy's a fraud, it's nonsense, and just listen to me and let's leave. And Black Canary refuses. She sounds very much hypnotized. So she's totally on board with this particular cult leader here. Green Arrow resorts to forcibly kiss Black Canary here, kind of thinking that our love, our physical love, will be enough to break this spell. And it turns out it's not. Black Canary is very upset about this, and she breaks away from Green Arrow's embrace, and she heads toward Joshua. And this is the part where I said it's kind of a tough decision on the two heroes, because on one hand, they know that Black Canary is not acting as she typically would. But at the same time, she is an adult, and she's saying, listen, I'm staying here, and I'd like you two guys to leave. So kind of the two heroes, they do leave. And although they're still going to discuss what happened. This is sort of very similar to Avengers 200, where Miss Marvel, seemingly on the surface looked like she was consensually leaving with this basically alien rapist, and the rest of the team let her go. And then it was later revealed that her mind was being controlled, and that was the reason why she's not a consensual. But she was saying, "Listen, guys, you guys should have stepped up for me, and realized that I was under this control, and you should not have let me make that decision." So kind of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, they're going through the same thing here. Black Canary, she's wavering a little. She wants the guys to come back. However, Joshua senses this, and he kind of immediately, he kind of gives her that comfort that she did make the right decision. Again, this is, the cult kind of reinforcing wavering members here. And then we see some kind of not very Neil Adams artwork here. And again, the art isn't terrible, but there's definitely too much Frank in it. But nevertheless, it turns out there's a flood of memories coming from the Black Canary, and it's about how she came to meeting the Green Arrow. Her husband had died on Earth 2. She was so upset over the husband's death that she couldn't stand being on that Earth. There was no place on that Earth where she couldn't feel bad about this guy. So she was like, "Hey guys, can you take me back with you on Earth 1, where I'm in a familiar environment, and yet it's completely free of any memories of my late husband?" And the Justice League agreed to this. I think this was because when DC started exiling those Golden Age heroes, the Black Canary was the one they wanted to keep. And it turns out that as the Black Canary was making a life for her on Earth 1, she met Green Arrow. He's a really nice guy. They were clearly romantically involved at this point. And then it shows where we kind of are now, at least at the start of the issue, where the Black Canary went out in search of Green Lantern and Green Arrow, kind of joined them on this trip. And then we see that her thoughts are immediately interrupted. And that's because Joshua has something for her. And Black Canary's taking this as kind of a kind gesture. She doesn't know what it is. She opens up the box, and it turns out it's a gun. And Black Canary is immediately startled by this, because his preachings prior to this have been all kind of very loving and very, very New Testament-like. And she's confused about why he would, advocate such a violent thing. Now, this is something that goes on with real cults. And when real cults sort of bring on new members, they don't tell the new members immediately all the crazy stuff. So if you hear about cults and you hear about some of the really nutty stuff they believe in, kind of remember that the new recruits aren't told that on day one. They sort of get acclimated to the environment, and then slowly, as the person gets deeper and deeper and more invested in the cult will share some of the nuttier ideas. And one of the things that's kind of universal about cults is the them versus us mentality. And many of the cults will encourage, their members to train in firearms. Charles Manson definitely did that. And we see that Joshua sort of has a hypnotic power. We don't know if this is an actual real power or he's just really that type of smooth guy. The real Charles Manson was basically kind of a con man and a pimp. And he had no real extra knowledge as much as he was claiming this to his disciples. But he knew a lot of techniques in manipulating people, and he knew how to manipulate those young people. And if you ever read the book Helter Skelter, and I really recommend it, it turned out the cult also was sort of influencing Charles Manson, because Charles Manson would say these way out things, but the cult members wanted more. So Manson would start going more overboard. So anyway, we see Black Canary. Again, she's totally hypnotized at this point. A lot of fans of the character did not like this particular issue because they felt that Black Canary was too easily swayed by Joshua. But the thing is that when O'Neil was writing this, he was not really writing this in terms of Black Canary as a character. He was really writing this in terms of the Manson girls. So he was trying to make a larger point. So he did knowingly, I guess, kind of corrupted the character, but he did so because he wanted to look at a bigger issue. So then Green Lantern, Green Arrow, they're back at their campsite. The old timer is still with the restaurant guy. Green Lantern, Green Arrow, they're talking about Black Canary, obviously. Green Arrow is convinced that she's under the influence of this individual. Green Lantern is not so sure. He thinks that Black Canary sort of made a logical, uninfluenced decision, and it was a decision that kind of went against the Green Arrow. And he's basically saying he's really tone deaf at this point. Green Lantern is saying, "Listen, she's just not into you, dude. Just face it." And then Green Arrow hears this. He pops Green Lantern in the mouth. Hal takes it in stride, saying that I'll overlook that. I'll forget that you ever did that. Green Arrow is saying, "Listen, don't do me any favors, and I'm gonna walk off." They're not in a city. They're in the wilderness. So when he's walking off into the Pacific Northwest here. So he's thinking about things. He's also concerned that Green Lantern might be right, and that she made that decision of her own free will, and maybe she doesn't think that much of him. But his thoughts are immediately interrupted by gunfire. And Green Arrow, he heads toward the sounds, and it turns out that Joshua and his cult members, including Black Canary, are having target practice at this point. And then Joshua stops the target practice, and he starts to preach to them. And basically, he's preaching the helter-skelter philosophy that Charles Manson had. Charles Manson had developed this idea that there's going to be a race war. It's going to happen soon. And I actually want to encourage this because I believe that once the race war is settled, I can take advantage of the situation. So basically, he's saying that, listen, there's an Indian village or a Native American village close by, so we should go down there and murder all those people, because afterwards we'll benefit from that. So Green Arrow, he's hearing this, and he doesn't like what he hears. However, he realizes that he can't take on this entire group by himself, at least not without killing some members, which he doesn't want to do. So then he sends out a flare with the hopes that Green Lantern will see it and then come to the rescue, because he figures Hal could probably handle these guys much easier than he could. However, the flare alerts Joshua and his cult members that someone's there, that they're being spied on, and they immediately fire in the general area. The target practice wasn't that much good, because it turns out that all these people firing, they only just graze Green Arrow. So they don't kill him, but they do just kind of nick him a couple of times. And then it looks like the cult members are going through with their plan. So at this plan, they're running off, but they're running off with the idea of still following through with their attack on the Native American village. However, they're immediately stopped by Green Lantern, he's letting them know, listen, guys, just walk away, and there won't be any more trouble. And Green Lantern, he's surprised by the demographics of the crowd, because he's noticing that there's a lot of young people in this crowd. They're not drawn young, because actually it looks like there's kind of some middle-aged people. I'm kind of blaming that a little bit on Frank here and not Neil. But nevertheless, Joshua, he's not one to back down. So he orders his cult members to fire on Green Lantern. Does no good, because Green Lantern immediately creates a force field. So none of the bullets are getting through. And at the same time, he also creates a magnet that will rip the guns from the hands of Joshua's followers. And he's melting the guns, so they're of no good to them at this point. Joshua's saying, listen, ignore that. You guys got hands, you got nails, you got teeth. Hey, just take this guy down any way you can. So the cult members just immediately go into attack mode. Green Lantern, he's not threatened by this, and he's being a little philosophical. Because on one hand, he realizes how dangerous these people are, but on the other hand, he knows that they're under some type of control. So he wants to sort of incapacitate them in a way that doesn't hurt them. So what he does is that he creates a pit, and they fall into the pit, and I guess they just take their concussion and just be thankful that that's all they'll leave with. And he's kind of hoping that maybe they can be restored to sanity. However, Joshua is not amongst that group. Him and the Black Canary got separated. So at this point, these two are separated from the others. Joshua wants to wants to sort of reevaluate things and kind of just start things over. And what he's doing, he grabs the Black Canary, because apparently the Black Canary was his favorite of his disciples. And we see Black Canary is beautifully drawn here. Thankfully, Neil took control of the art here. So Joshua kind of wants to restart his cult somewhere else. Before I get back to the story, take a look at this one in-house ad. It's a full-page ad. This is clearly the kind of advertising Kirby is coming to DC. And this advertisement is kind of talking about Kirby's Fourth World, which I love them for the most part. And there's not much specifics here, but they're making it clear that the Great One is coming, and they're asking everyone to look sharp, look up, and look out. Behind you, above you, all around you. It's the boom tube. And that's kind of like, a setup to what Jack Kirby is planning on doing at DC. They don't actually mention Kirby's name or any of the titles at this point. So then we see Joshua and Black Canary. They come across Green Arrow. Green Arrow at this point is still hurt. And I'd forgotten why he got hurt. Oh yeah, because from being shot at. Okay, so apparently, maybe they nicked him on the scalp or something. So Joshua sees Green Arrow. He knows that Green Arrow was the guy responsible for upsetting his plans. And what he does is that he hands the gun to Black Canary, and he orders her to kill Green Arrow. And Joshua's saying that this might kind of settle the debt that I have with these guys, for basically destroying my good thing back there. And we see that Joshua's egging on the Black Canary, saying that this is not just a murder, this is a holy sacrifice, and that you can prove yourself to me and you can prove yourself worthy if you take care of this. Black Canary does take the safety off the gun. She does cock it, and she is aiming it at Green Arrow's head here. However, she is clearly wavering at this point. But it turns out that there's an audience watching this. It's Green Lantern. He sees the situation. He knows the situation. And it's a tough one for him. Because the thing is, if he takes the gun away from Black Canary too soon, he's worried that she'll carry around the guilt that she might very well have murdered the man she loves. So Green Lantern wants to hold out as long as possible, betting that Black Canary will find it in her to fight this hypnotic impulse and not pull the trigger. But at the same time, there's not much distance between that gun and Green Arrow's head. So if he's wrong, it's going to be pretty bad consequences. But nevertheless, this is something Green Lantern understands, and he's going to bet on the Black Canary. He feels that he knows her enough that she won't do this. And Black Canary is starting to waver more and more. And eventually she can't do it. She can't bring herself to do it. She drops the gun. She makes it clear that she's not a cold-blooded killer. Joshua is angry, saying that he feels betrayed by the fact that Black Canary couldn't do this. And he picks up the gun and he says, "Listen, I'm going to show you how a real strong man does things." So as he's about to shoot Green Arrow, a green fist comes out of nowhere and belts Joshua right in the mouth. So this is sort of like to demonstrate what's going on in the cover. And Green Lantern is telling Joshua that his conquering days are over. However, when he punched Joshua still had the gun in his hand, and because of the way his body turned, the gun went off right in his chest, and apparently it shot him straight through the heart. And I think this is probably what Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams wanted to see for Charles Manson. This is kind of similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Maybe this is where Tarantino got the idea. So anyway, this murderous prophet is dead, and we see the Green Arrow and Black Canary. They're discussing about what had gone on. Apparently, the way Black Canary is talking, she is talking like she just got out of a trance, and she's trying to understand what her actions, what was going on in the past few days. Green Arrow is saying that listen, guys like Joshua, they've always been around. They know how to push people's buttons. They know how to manipulate them. But Green Arrow is also saying that you owe a little of that to yourself. There's something in you that found Joshua's message of hate appealing. Little bit of problem here, because Black Canary didn't know how bad Joshua was until a little late in the story. But nevertheless, Green Arrow is saying that there was a little bit of you that found what he was saying appealing, and that this is part of human nature, and it's something hopefully we can get past at some point. Green Lantern, he's kind of looking at Joshua, thinking that He isn't the first, and he won't be the last. And then we're told in the next issue, Ulysses Starr lives again. This is a much nicer drawing. This art here for this in-house ad is probably better than any single panel in this comic. So, and do we have a letters page? Okay, we do have a letters page. The problem with the letters page is that they're actually not talking about issue 76. They're talking about issue 75, which is the last issue before kind of this reboot here. There's a lot of praise for John Bloom, even though I'm sure it killed Jules Schwartz to print these letters because he was so angry at the dip in sales in the title. And he's saying, really, this title was a dog and yet these kids still liked it? I guess it's kind of like there's always like that kid who preferred crack to Mad Magazine. So those are kind of, these are the kids. Okay, gonna take a quick look at a couple of ads. One is for Palisades Park. It's an amusement park in New Jersey. It always seemed very odd to me that comics which are sold nationally would have kind of this very regional advertiser here. But I guess they got all the New York kids along with the Jersey kids. I actually do go to Palisades Park every so often. The township, not the amusement park, because they have a great spa called King Spa. Okay, and there's a full page ad for basically a record club. So this is sort of how those early Columbia Record Club scams kind of ran. This is like the first look at them. Okay, so that's my review of Green Lantern Green Arrow 78, and I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.